Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our pod.
Hello. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday indeed. You're not going to be listening to this on a Monday, but we are recording this on a Monday.
Correct.
So Mondays for me are awesome because it's my first day off, and for most other people, Mondays kind of suck. And
it's kind of your weekend.
I kind of feel bad. Yeah, I kind of feel bad for people who are like, Mondays, am I right? And I'm like, I like Mondays. I like having weekdays off. I'm going to be honest. I like having weekdays off.
Yeah, well, I will say that I like you having Mondays off. Well, especially if I'm home working, if I don't have like a lot going on. Because I will also admit you do work all day Sunday because that's the day that you pull a double so that you have 2.5 days off in a row, which is really nice for you. But I tend to get a lot of stuff done around the house, and for me, just personally, like errands and stuff when you were at work.
Yeah.
Because I do that to pass the time. Because I do miss you when you are at work, but I tend to get a lot of those like kind of tedious, mundane tasks done that I need to get done. Right. So, but I do like you home on Mondays and Tuesdays.
I do like you.
I do like you. You're all right.
Thanks.
You'll do.
Okay, so I have, we were talking about this. This has absolutely nothing to do with our episode.
Okay.
We're just doing a little chit chat real quick. You didn't answer this last night, I don't think. So we've talked about this before. We've talked about this many, many times. Anna and I really love watching the same stuff over and over. And it's our comfort, like put something on in the background that we've seen a bunch of times. I think Girls is back in your rotation. I think I heard you playing that the other day, but what always stays in your rotation are them Jurassic movies. And you love your dinosaurs.
I do though.
So what is, out of all of the Jurassic movies, which one is actually your favorite? Cuz you didn't really say it last cuz my favorite, it's an unpopular opinion, but my favorite is Jurassic Park 3. That's my favorite one.
That's like asking me to pick a favorite child if I had my own child.
Well, if you only had one child, you could just be like, that's my favorite child.
Well, correct. But I don't. There are 6 of them with another one on the way. I love all of them for different reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, truly hard for me to pick. I mean, like, I'll go through the list. So I love the first Jurassic Park because it was the first Jurassic Park.
It's a cinematic masterpiece.
It was like, I had read the book. I loved it. I was waiting for it. Now, I will say it didn't match the book exactly. There were some key things that were left out that were later brought in the other movies. So it gets a pass, but I just love it. I remember when it came out, who I was with, what we thought. We talked about it in the parking lot. I just remember it. Lost World, again, it was good, and it brought back elements of the book that were missing from the first one. So I think we're trying to make the book fans happy because we were kind of upset because of what they left out. And it wasn't like major plot points. It was just like little elements that we were like, why'd you leave that out? That was like such a good part of the book.
Yeah.
And then let's see. The third one I loved. I felt like it had like an actual storyline.
Yeah.
Like, not that the other ones again didn't, but I love the 3 because of the storyline and how they were trying to find the kid, and then they got split up and back together and all of that. So I loved it. I loved the whole like aviary scene. That's my favorite.
What I've been waiting 3 movies for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then Jurassic World,
the first one.
The first one, I have a personal knife in my heart story. I had gotten a casting call for that to be an extra. I always think it was probably at the end scene when they're like running around being chased by the pterodactyls. Because that's probably, or like just, kind of like any of the guest scenes.
Yeah. So if you were like that middle-aged person at the bar who's like, I could have been great. That's like your story. Like you
Yeah.
could have been an extra in a Jurassic movie.
I could have been, and I wish I still had the casting email from it, but I had a class at Tulane to teach that day, and y'all, like, my good angel and my devil on my shoulders were trying to talk me out of going to teach. Like, I probably could have made up some excuse and emailed my professor and said I'm sick or whatever, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't let my fun stuff go over work. That's the work ethic I have. And so I went and did my class, but I missed the casting because there weren't many more after that, or the ones whatever I could not do.
Every single time we watch the first Jurassic World and we get to that end where everyone's getting scooped up, I'm like, that could have been you.
That could have been me.
That could have been you.
But again, I do love it in the sense of, they brought it back. You got to see what the actual park would have been like with guests. And
I think a lot of people were disappointed with it just because it had been so long since there had been one. And I think people were expecting, I think a lot of people thought that it was just kind of like the first one, just a little bit more like the park was open and everything, but
there were definite comparisons.
There were a lot of parallels between the both
kids
of the
getting
first
lost
one.
And you're out
but I mean, like, the thing is that, like, when I go and see a movie or when I go watch a TV show, I don't go on IMDb and look up, like, what people thought of it because I want to make my own opinion. I feel like a lot of times people just jump on a bandwagon and they're just like, oh, I hated it too. It's like, why did you hate it? And they don't have an answer. Like, they just know that that's, like, the default answer is like, oh, I hate it. Oh, it's overrated. Oh, it's this. And it's like, explain to me why. And they can't.
Yeah. So then Fallen Kingdom, the second in the Jurassic World trilogy.
You love that one.
I love that one.
Yeah.
I love it from, like, the minute it starts.
Yeah.
I love that scene.
Oh, that opening scene is
with
awesome.
With the Megalodon, Megalosaurus, whatever it is, eating the little tanker thing, the little scuba, like, sub thing. I thought that was amazing.
We saw it in theaters with my mom.
Yeah, I remember, like, but and again, I love how it just extended the story, but also showed you a little bit of insight into the partnership and just what they were trying to do with dinosaurs, which of course I still wonder, like, how they thought they could control the dinosaurs, like all these people and having them in their armies. I mean, but
the reason why Fallen Kingdom, I mean, I still I love all of the Jurassic movies. I'm just like you. I love all the Jurassic movies. Love them whether they're really good or less than. But I hated Fallen Kingdom because of the brontosaurus scene where they leave it on the dock.
Oh my god.
And it's like wailing at them. I'm like, why did y'all have to do that to me? I love those are like my favorite dinosaurs, and they are like the sweet ones. And in the first Jurassic World, when they're at the petting zoo and there's like the little baby Bronte and the kid hugs it, I'd be like, I would have been a fully grown adult at the petting zoo with the kid. I'd be like, I don't need to go to any other part of the park. This is where I want to be.
Baby Bronte.
I want to bring this Bronte home, but I need it to stay a mini.
You need it to stay a little mini.
So
like,
so I know they don't exist anymore, but they're so cute.
They're so cute. And then Dominion, again, I loved how it kind of brought it full circle. With Dodson back, even though it was a different actor, but brought that whole, like, idea that somehow he got the shaving cream can from Nedry back. And I mean, there was more obviously to that. It wasn't like just that shaving cream can, but I loved how it brought back the old characters. I do wish they would have brought back Ariana Richards and
Joseph Mazzello.
Yeah. That would have been even more epic.
He's still frequently in movies still. I think she retired a long time ago. She was in one of the Tremors sequels just as like a little bit of stunt casting, but I think she's like done with acting.
But I loved all of them.
Yeah.
And I love them. To me, they're just fun, and it's just something that makes me happy, and I can watch any of them. And you brought up a point about us watching shows over and over again, and I've heard people talk about there'll be memes and people talking about, like, ADHD or anxiety or whatever, that when people watch things over and over again because it brings them comfort, that's a sign that you suffer from anxiety or ADHD or ADD. And
personally, I can vouch for that for myself.
So you do. I've never been diagnosed. I do not know if I am or not. My friends have suggested that I am.
I'm never going to say that you are because I am not a doctor in any way, shape, or form. But you give a lot of qualities that provide a person with ADHD. You are, you're very easily distracted. It's the best thing in the world. But I mean,
feel like I'm also very I'm able to concentrate very well. Like I can go both directions.
People with ADHD can concentrate on stuff. I think just for a lot of them, they can concentrate on things. Like for me personally, I can, if it's something that I'm like genuinely interested in, or if it's something that like I have to do, I can easily get focused on something. I mean, I can get focused on stuff.
No.
I could get focused. I'm just kidding.
Anyway, not that we want to go into that whole discussion, but I just feel like for me in and of itself, so like I've never been, like I said, diagnosed or have gone to see a doctor or had any of those diagnoses. I just love watching the same things over and over again.
I've always been that way. Like when I was a kid and I would watch a movie for the first time that I really liked, I would rewind it and just watch it a second time in a row. And I continue doing that until now. And I still do it.
And I don't know if I've mentioned this in on the pod, is I can think back going to movies back in the day when, you didn't have like assigned seating and, they didn't care if you stayed in the movie and saw it again, like the next showing if it wasn't full. I would actually do that. Yeah. Like my mom was always fine. Like I just, back in the day when, a telephone call on the payphone cost a dime, I would put I'd, call my mom and be like, can I stay and watch Moonraker again? Or can I stay and watch Superman again?
Moonraker.
Those were the movies. And she'd be like, all right, so like what time does it start? And so she would try to figure out like when then she had to come and get me. So I mean, I think I've just been doing that since I was really, really young. I mean, I've dated myself just now with Superman alone. So, I don't know. I find comfort in that. And maybe it is a sign of something that's soothing or comforting to me. Yeah. I don't know. But anyhow.
Well, the show we are talking about today is, I would think this is a lot of people's comfort shows because it's incredibly popular, even though like I said, this is our last episode of February, and it is our last short-lived show that we are doing for the month. Even though this is the shortest month of the year, we're not even done with it yet, and it already feels like it's been going on forever. I don't know what's going on with time since this year started, but usually stuff is flying by, and I feel like we've been in 2025 for 3 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we are doing. So when I said at the very beginning of the month, when we did My So-Called Life, that the first and the last show of this month are kind of like always in the top 1, 2, 3 of the best short-lived shows of all time, or top 10 shows that were canceled too soon. This is usually people's number one, other than My So-Called Life.
And this is wild because I've never heard of it.
Yeah, I mean, like I had only heard of it because of it's just like My So-Called Life. It's famous for being canceled, and that was my context. I had seen, you're going to talk about it in a minute, but I'd seen the movie it was like a few years after the show ended, and I had no idea that it was a TV show until like 10 years after I saw the movie.
Oh, wow.
But I only saw the movie once. I mean, I liked it, but yeah, I only saw the movie once. But so the show we're doing today for our February finale is Firefly, which was a show that, I mean, it was a sci-fi show that has become so popular, and I don't even know if I knew that I thought maybe it lasted longer than this. From what I had heard about it, I didn't know
especially if it launched a movie.
It launched a movie. I mean, like it's like in the top 250 on IMDb for top highest rated TV shows. So we got a lot to talk about, and we got some fun stuff to talk about. It's not going to get too heavy. Once again, I feel like we got really heavy on a lot of past episodes, and I've been wanting to keep it light. And so Anna's going to do what she always does and give us some episode and series information.
All right, Firefly. The pilot was called Train Job, but Firefly was an American space western that aired on Fox from September 20th, 2002 to December 20th, 2002 for one season with a total of 14 episodes. The series was created, written, and directed by Joss Whedon. Whedon is best known for being the creator of the iconic TV series Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He also wrote the screenplay for the 1992 film based the series. He also wrote the screenplay for the 1992 film the series is based on. Whedon co-wrote other films such as Toy Story, Alien Resurrection, Cabin in the Woods, and would go on to write and direct The Avengers Age of Ultron, and was the co-creator of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Fun fact, Joss Whedon is a third-generation TV writer. His father, Tom Whedon, was a writer for Alice, The Golden Girls, and his grandfather, John Whedon, was a writer for The Donna Reed Show and The Dick Van Dyke Show. Firefly is set 500 years in the future and centers around a renegade crew aboard a Firefly-class ship called Serenity as they try to survive as they travel through the unknown parts of the galaxy and evade warring factions as well as authority agents out to get them. The cast includes Nathan Fillion as Captain Malcolm Mal Reynolds, Gina Torres as Zoe Washburn, who serves as the ship's lieutenant and is Mal's best friend, Alan Tudyk as Hoban Washburn, the ship's pilot and Zoe's husband, Morena Baccarin as Inara Sarah, a companion, which is kind of a mix of a geisha and a mistress, but has a higher social standing. Adam Baldwin as Jane Cobb, a mercenary. Jewel State as Kaylee Fry, the ship's mechanic. Sean Marr as Simon Tam, a trauma surgeon. Summer Glaw as River Tam, Simon's younger sister and a child prodigy. And Ron Glass as Dariel Book, a shepherd or also a pastor. Even though the series had this amazing cast, a unique premise, and a ton of potential, Firefly never had high ratings, but it wasn't due to lack of interest. For whatever reason, Fox gave the series inconsistent air times and also aired episodes out of order, making it impossible to follow, and the series was ultimately canceled. Despite this, Firefly had a small but loyal fan base that felt the series was never given a full chance, and when the series was released on DVD a year later, the show's popularity only grew. Similar to shows like My So-Called Life and Freaks and Geeks, Firefly is considered to be one of the most robbed shows of all time. The fan base was so vocal about this that Joss Whedon was given an opportunity to give the series a proper conclusion with the 2005 feature film Serenity. Like we said before, the series had issues due to network airing episodes out of order, and that even includes the pilot. The original pilot was a 90-minute feature called Serenity, but was rejected by the network. Whedon went back to the drawing board and created a more condensed 42-minute version of the pilot called The Train Job, and that was picked up by the network. You can currently watch all 14 episodes, which includes the original pilot, all on Hulu.
Yeah, so they did air the original pilot, but they aired it last. So it was really like when I saw like the episode air release, yeah, it was just like all out of order, all on different nights. I don't when I was kind of doing a little bit more research, they said that there was just this was just the rise of reality TV, and so I think Fox was like, let's like in sci-fi and like all those types of shows were kind of like interest was kind of dropping according to their data, I'm sure. Yeah, and so that was it was really interesting. This whole series has been like a big mystery to me because I've never seen it. So it was just kind of like I've always heard it's like has this reputation of being this great show that only lasted a little while. So it's always kind of interested me to watch it, but I just never got around to it. And this just seemed like a perfect opportunity to finally watch it. So you said you had never heard of this show.
Yeah. I mean, I had never heard of it.
Yeah, that's the thing is that I hadn't heard of it, and I didn't hear about it until, I mean, long after it ended. I think I didn't really hear about Firefly until TV shows really started being released on like DVD to like rent at places, and I think maybe it went in syndication somewhere, and I heard people starting to talk about it then. But that was like probably like 2010 or something like that. So
Wow. Okay.
yeah, so I mean with 14 episodes, what was it, 2002? I would have been a senior in high school. I was not watching TV. So I mean, like,
Well, I was saying
yeah.
any fall time for me, and that was back in Seattle time. I was probably just full on in school.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think back to 2002. Obviously, it was, you watched what was on TV at the time, but
Yeah.
I don't know why this just never, I mean, maybe because of its erratic airing schedule, I just never caught on to it, or I was watching something else that was
Yeah.
competing with it and never caught it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, you know, maybe space stuff wouldn't have been my jam
Right.
as well. So
Yeah,
that could have also been it.
well, I mean, Aliens is your favorite movie, but
Well, I know.
that's different. I
That's,
know.
yeah.
That's like horror, sci-fi.
Yeah, and that's a movie.
Yeah. So this is all about like space travel and being a member on like a spaceship, being like a crew member on a spaceship. I mean, like, in theory, it sounds like a cool job. I think for a lot of people, they would think that being like
I have never wanted
Right.
to be an astronaut.
Yeah, in the
Never.
words of in the words of Ernie from Sesame Street, I don't want to live on the moon.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree with you, but it did kind of get me thinking about doing something a little different, because a lot of times we tell stories, and I feel like we could maybe get some stories out of this this question. So, I was thinking about like what our dream jobs would be, or a job that you think maybe you would have had you not gone to law school and gotten your, like, you know, other jobs you could see yourself having even before you went to college, like something you could see before you like picked a major and stuff like that, if you would have gone another way. Do you have any off the top of your head?
Well, I think I've talked about I always wanted to be a sports reporter,
Yes.
except I then later came to the conclusion that
Yeah.
I might have hated it, because I love sports, and I would have hated that sports would have had to have been my job, and that I couldn't actually cheer for the teams I really
Right.
wanted
You
to
wouldn't-
cheer for.
you wouldn't be
You
able
have to
to-
be unbiased. You have to
Right.
be unbiased, so that would have been difficult. I've always joked that I wanted to own a Hallmark store.
Yes.
I've always, or like kind of like a gift shop, like Messengers,
Mhm.
or there's another place like Purple Tiger Boutique or Blossom Boutique that
Yeah.
are just gifts. I always say that because, not because I love retail. I have worked in retail, worked at Maison Blanche for 3 years when I was in law school. But I always feel like when you go into a gift shop or someplace like Hallmark, you're going in there because you're happy. Like you're
Right.
getting a gift for someone. You're getting a baby gift or a bridal gift or a birthday gift, or
Yeah.
you're getting someone like a new home gift or something. You're generally not going to these stores because you're pissed off. So I just feel like that would be a fun thing to do, and to own like my own store. So like back in the day, there was a shop called Greetings. It was like a Hallmark, but it was
Yeah.
a person owned it. It was her own store. So I've always joked that I wanted to do that. I've always thought about being a florist. A friend of mine,
Oh, yeah, I
Ashley,
could see you
where
doing that.
we go to watch parades. Shout out to Ashley and Nola Flora in New Orleans. I love her store. It's kind of a combination
It's
of
a cool store, yeah.
florists. She has flowers, but she also has gifts, like New Orleans based gifts. And
Yeah.
so it's a super, super cute store uptown. I'm not that talented. She obviously has like a team of people and herself. She's very talented. And again, generally like planning events. I think I would also love to be an event planner.
Mm-hmm.
I think being an event planner would be fun, although I do worry about having to deal with like brides or moms for birthday parties or showers. Like, does it get a little stressful? If there are any event planners out there that are listening and you need like someone
Hell
to
yeah.
maybe help like once a month or something, like on a weekend, so I could get an idea of what y'all do, I'd be happy to help. Actually, there were some people looking, and I kind of DM'd them, but they needed someone much more
Full time.
Not full time, but
Open availability.
yeah, and
Yeah.
a lot like part time, not
Gotcha.
like once a month.
Gotcha. Okay.
The other job, and this was long before like YouTube bloggers, vloggers of like travel, being like a travel agent, but also the chick, her name is Samantha Brown, and she used to do, gosh, I can't think of the name. It was like Passports or something, Passports and Travel, or Passports with Samantha. You can look it up. And I loved what she did. It was on the Travel Channel, and it was just her picking a town or a country, and she would just show you some of the sights and some of the local culture, the local food, and obviously it was all produced and everything. It's definitely not something like Kira and Nate where they're just running around like maniacs, and they have a plan and they know what they're doing, but it's I like Samantha's because hers is much more reasonable and like real people doing it, where I love Kara and Nate, but they've gone very high end with their YouTube channel where they're like going to the pods in Saudi Arabia, or like
it's so
to
cool.
the
It's so cool though.
it's so cool to see,
Right.
but I mean, we'll never be able to
Right.
afford that.
Yeah,
it's like $25,000 a night.
How they started, I mean, like eventually if you start becoming successful traveling on a budget, you can't really do that once you start having a bigger budget. You know what I mean? Like it
Oh, well, for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that's the twist on what's sort of happening
Right.
like in their lives, is that they've gotten so big that their life is now this channel.
Right.
And it's like, where is your channel and where is your life?
Right.
And like, that's what I like about Samantha Brown's, was it was very simple. It was, obviously she was on the Travel Channel, so she had like a line of producers and stuff that were helping her produce the show. But when you're a YouTube vlogger, you're pretty much your whole production.
Yeah.
And so that becomes, I'm going to guess, very challenging.
What was that Netflix
So-
show that we loved? It was the three people, and they would. It
Oh
was like
yeah,
one
the
of
amazing,
amazing like rentals or
yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, Amazing Vacation Rentals.
Amazing Vacation Rentals. Like one of them was like the thrifty one. One of them was like on a budget. The other one was like luxury. The other one was like coolest like aesthetic or something like that. Yeah, that show was great.
Yeah.
I loved that show.
Something like that.
Yeah.
That was very like produced, but with, you know, obviously some of the luxury ones we could have never afforded, but I like the ones on the budget because I was like, oh, we could do that. You know, if we were interested in going to like South Africa or something.
Right.
I mean, like that would have been something we could have maybe have done.
The snake condo.
Oh
in
my
Mexico.
God. Yeah. The snake like apartment complex in Mexico City that was like booked out for years. But yeah, so something like that. I feel like, you know, I was talking to a friend last night on text, and she was telling me that she got laid off last year, but it had been kind of not a blessing, but a blessing in a way, because her daughters are both in high school. So it's allowed her time to, you know, go to like softball games and tennis matches. And both of them are in Mardi Gras balls. And so, you know, she's been able to have the time to dedicate to their parties and to, you know, going to fittings and, you know, all of those kind of things that, you know, she would have wanted to do that she might have been struggling with.
Yeah.
And then, you know, but she's like, you know, once this is over, she's like, I've, you know, got to look for a job. She's like, girl, who wants to hire someone middle-aged? And I jokingly joked back to her, but it was kind of half of a joke where I was like, I think I could be happy being like a Walmart shopper.
Yeah.
Where like I just walked around, got exercise
Yeah.
in air conditioning, shopping, which I love to do. And so, you know, I'm not putting anyone down. I'm not saying that that's an easy job whatever. I actually think, you know, it's hard because you're standing on your feet all day. You're walking around a store and
you have
people
to,
are
like,
bugging you.
And and you have to like meet a certain, like you have to do things in a certain amount of time and
make sure you get the order
you really
right.
have to know the store well, because I don't know if any of y'all have never been inside of a Walmart, just in case they're all huge and you can be getting stuff in the garden section.
Yeah, back to groceries, back to
you really have to know the
medicine
store, and Yeah, it's a lot of moving. Yeah, I did some research on that because I too, my whole thing is like, I there's this American thing where we, what is it? We live to work, and I think both of our mentalities are we work to live.
Yeah.
And we do what we do because it allows us to do the things that we want to do. It has nothing to do with like, I mean, you enjoy your job, I enjoy my job. It has nothing to do with like we hate our jobs but it pays our bills. We don't have that kind of mentality. It's just very much like we don't define ourselves by our jobs, and when we are not at work and people ask us, I mean, I know when people ask me about work, I'm just like, it's fine. It's cool.
Yeah.
Same stuff.
I mean,
like I could tell you stuff that's going on, but I don't want to because I don't want to talk about work.
Right. And again, I don't think with the friends or anything, I don't really talk about work a lot, like verbally, maybe in our group chat
Unless
or something.
Something like juicy is going on.
Well, that or like,
for me at least.
if I'm traveling, like I'll be like, oh my gosh, this airport is packed, or the line at TSA was insane, stuff like that. But, or if, whatever. But, I don't think like I'm changing the world. I am teaching students and hopefully I'm helping them learn like new skills that'll be helpful in their career. But I am not doing anything that, is making the earth keep
people.
turning. So
I feed people.
You do feed people. You feed people good food. So
I
think those are some of mine. What about yours?
Okay, so I have 5 written down just because, I mean, honestly, like, I didn't want to go too far out of reality because honestly, like there are tons of random things I'm sure I would like to do, but the actual idea of doing them, it's more of just, it's nice to think about. So I tried to like, what could I actually see myself doing? An easy one is something that I was originally going to do, that I went back to school for, and then I've eventually stopped, was being a literature professor. I feel like, or a film professor, I feel like that's a curriculum that I could get very easily passionate about. I love books, I love movies, so I could very easily see myself doing that. I love to talk about books and movies a lot, and I get very into it, and I get kind of lost in it, and I'm also like very, when it comes to movies and books, but specifically with movies, I love all movies. Like, when people sit there and like pick apart and analyze, I do that a little bit, but I also like think about like the positive aspects of it and like the negative aspects of it. But I just feel like I don't watch a movie and be like, oh, this one thing happened, now I hate this movie. Like, I'm just not one of those people. So I feel like I could analyze movies for like a classroom and be like unbiased. I could just talk about it.
Yeah.
That's an easy one, but one that is never gonna happen because I'd have to go back to school and I'd have to completely change the type of classes that I have already on my transcript, and I would have to go to more schooling as a veterinarian. I love animals. I know the whole thing is I love animals, and people are like, oh, I would have such a difficulty like putting them down. But my mentality is like, I think about when we had Maggie, and when Maggie was getting old and she couldn't walk around anymore, and we were struggling to finally come to the decision. I just remember like the veterinarian coming over, and her just, she was incredible. Like, she was amazing. And I just remember like thinking like, oh, I could do that. I was just like, I could do that in a sense of like, I would be okay, because I would be like, they're not in pain anymore, or they're not, they're not suffering anymore. And that would make me feel better about having to I think what would probably upset me being a veterinarian is dealing with people who I know are like neglecting their pets.
Oh my God.
Aren't treating their pets, and they come in all matted, or they come in all, all unclean, and they're hungry, and you can see their rib cages.
Oh my God, those videos kill me.
I know.
I hate when those get in my algorithm.
I same, and I would hate that part. So 3 things that aren't a surprise to anyone. The original thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to be an actor when I was younger. When I was in middle school, I really wanted to do like stage acting because that's all I knew, because that's all I had done. And I was like, oh yeah, if they ever do like a Broadway revival of like Oliver, I want to play Fagin or something like that. I said something like that. But when I was in high school, I really wanted to be a cast member on SNL. I really wanted to be a sketch actor. I did a lot of improv in high school. I did a lot of sketch comedy in high school, and I had a lot of fun doing that. And I could, not now, but I could see myself back then doing it. I remember when Andy Samberg got really popular on SNL, I was like, that was kind of like the humor that I had, and I was just like, he's in front of, like the sketch actor that I wanted to be, Andy Samberg was. And so it was very like, that's why he's my favorite. I mean, like, that's why I love him. That's why I love him so much. If y'all haven't seen the Antonio sketch on SNL where him and Maya Rudolph come back on the Ariana Grande, it's incredible.
A little twist.
So the two other ones are both kind of in the same genre, being a horror novelist. I know I wanted to write books for a really long time, but I just don't have the creative patience to write a novel. Maybe like short stories, but yeah, I just like, I'll have an idea for a story and I'm like, this is going to be 20 pages. I'm just like, short stories exist, but like, you can do like short story collections and stuff, but I mean, like, I don't have the longevity to write a novel. I just don't have that in me. And I've tried many times, but like over the years, and I'm just not that creative, I guess, and I just don't have that in me. But what I do have, and something that I know I could do, is be a horror filmmaker. I know I could do that. I know I could be a horror director. I know I could write a script because it's different than a novel.
A screenplay is different.
A screenplay is different than a novel. So I would really like to be like just a parallel, just to give people an idea of what type of, I would like to be like a Mike Flanagan type, be like adapt a lot of Stephen King stuff. I've read so many of his books. I've had so many ideas for his movies in my head over the years. But also I feel, and any of you millennials out there will know what I'm talking about, I know that I could create a legit revival of the Goosebumps book series and make it into a legit anthology like it was in the 90s.
Oh, okay.
Because now they're kind of like doing Goosebumps now, and it's very like, it's not anthology style. It's like one continuing storyline, which is fine. But no, I want to do like an anthology, and I want it to be like just a little edgier. I don't want it to be like TV PG. I want it just like a little bit edgier, a little bit darker, a little bit edgier, a little bit more modern and updated. But yeah, I think I could, if I woke up tomorrow and was like, Jeff, you have to be a director for a horror movie, I'm like, okay, I think I could do that. Like,
awesome.
Yeah, so that's what I have. I don't think any of them are really a surprise. There's
Places to Love.
Yeah, no, she had like, it was Passport 2, and then it was all these different.
Yeah.
So it has Girl Meets Hawaii. I'm on her Wikipedia page.
Oh, okay.
Girl Meets Hawaii, great. Okay. Girl Meets Hawaii, great vacation homes, great hotels, Passport to Europe, Passport to Latin America, Passport to China, great weekends, green getaways, Samantha Brown's Asia. So I think she just like, it was just Places to Love was another one like that. I think she just had, I think it was just, she's from Dallas.
Oh, okay.
Fun.
Yeah, I liked her show a lot. It was, to me, probably, I'm sure there were other travel shows, but hers was one of the ones that I really watched.
Did great cruises. She did she was on Freedom of the Seas.
Yeah, she did one of those.
Brilliance of the Seas.
I think I would also combine that with like Rachel Ray's show. Gosh, this was, I still am always sus of this show. Like, it would be like Charleston on $30 a day, and she would eat in Charleston. I don't think there's anywhere you can eat in Charleston on $30 a day.
Day? Okay.
Yeah, where I think she later came out and admitted that she only showed the price of the actual food, not including like tax and tip.
Right.
And later on, I think the show evolved into like $50 a day.
Yeah.
Because people were like, well, then that's not true. I mean,
Right.
shoot, we had lunch out today and we barely got anything at a fast food place, and it was almost $20.
Yeah.
I mean,
we didn't get a combo. We shared fries, and
we each got a sandwich.
And it was 18 something.
so there's, and again, this was many moons
My
ago.
change was 69 cents.
69. But I remember watching the show and I loved the concept, but I was like, I would watch what she would eat, and I'm going to make up. She would be like, I'm going to have crab cakes with like an arugula salad. And this was like $11.95. I'm like, there is no way that was $11.95.
Yeah.
I don't care if
Crab
you were
cake.
in Maryland.
Crab cake, a crab cake alone, yeah, that's like $15 or
Right,
something like that.
yeah,
At a low end place.
Right.
Crab cakes are expensive.
Yeah, so,
They're so good, though.
yeah, so I just like her show. I love
like-
the whole travel
Yeah.
and the eating because that's what she would do. Like
Yeah,
she
I'm
would.
not a Rachel Ray fan. So,
Yeah. Well, I know she's not everyone's favorite, but I
Yeah.
loved that concept. She
Oh,
would
yeah.
go to a new city, she would eat and kind of show you cool restaurants to eat
Another
at.
another job I would like to do is host a cooking show. There we go. I
Yeah,
don't even
you'd
know
be
why.
good.
I don't even know why I didn't even
Yeah,
think of
you'd
that.
be good at that.
I think that is always like one avenue of like YouTube entertainment that I'd always want to tap into is like how to make food. I could actually do like how to make this thing for under $10. Like just go to the grocery store. Well, who knows now, but
Really?
but yeah, like I always thought like I could have like cooking on a budget show because that's what I've done my whole life. So
Yeah.
Or as an adult.
And I think we're both pretty good with that because
Yeah.
I was single for a long time. So, you
Yeah.
know, and you were single for a long time and you cook for a living.
Right.
So you definitely know how to put together things, but also make them taste good,
Yeah.
but on a budget.
Right.
So,
Okay, so we're at the end of the month, and we talked about short-lived shows, shows that maybe were canceled too soon. This was probably, I'm not even gonna lie, this was probably the hardest month to select shows for because I feel like this is a category that like there are just an infinite amount of shows that didn't get a fair shake. Even if it lasted longer than a season or two, maybe it lasted 3 or 4 seasons or maybe 5 seasons. Maybe it ended too abruptly. You didn't like the way it ended. It felt rushed. Looking at you, final season of Game of Thrones. I mean, just like we have so many shows that fall under that category, and I feel like it would be fun for us to talk about some of the shows that we feel that way, maybe some shows that we almost did for this month but didn't make the cut. Stuff like that. So, do you have stuff off the top? I have a big list. So I think we have it was a lot of stuff that we both said. So I'm probably gonna have a lot that you have.
one of the first that I'll say is the OA.
Yeah.
I love that. I didn't so much like the second season.
Right.
I
Yeah.
kind of wish that would have actually have been a show that just ended. Maybe
Yeah,
like
same.
it was so good the
It
first
was.
season, and then when they said a second season was coming, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
It took 3 years or something
and
like
then,
that.
Yes,
Yeah.
it took forever, and then I was like, okay, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
What's happening? And whatever.
It was like I got it, but it was like I was just like, yeah, they should have just made this one season because that final episode of season 1, the season 1 finale is
so good.
I mean that whole first season is some of the best TV personally that I've ever seen. I was like a changed person after I watched that first season. It's so good.
It was really good. I also have Glow. I think they had 3 seasons, and they were
Yeah.
actually filming a 4th, but then it never came out.
Something
So,
like that, yeah.
Yeah, and so I actually really liked that
Loved
show,
that
which was
show,
based
yeah.
on an actual
Yep.
series.
Saturday morning wrestling.
Actually,
yeah.
Summer, if you're listening, Summer, I think, said she used to watch the actual real show, and so yeah.
I think I did too, but it was like reruns.
yeah. The other ones I have are I'm Dying Up Here,
That
which
show
that
was so
killed
good.
me. It was so good.
It was so good.
And that whole roller rink scene with Will Clark. Is it Will Clark?
Clark Duke.
Clark Duke. I always get his name mixed up. Clark Duke. What happened to him?
What happened to Ron?
What happened to Ron? And then the last one I have, it's not so much that it was short-lived. I
Yeah.
think there was kind of all intents and purposes of it to be a 4-year show, was Felicity. Obviously, it was freshman through senior year of college and kind of all of that. I just hated season 4 and the whole time travel, the whole like Elena dies, Noel dies, Megan gives her a spell, she goes back, and then she goes back into the future, back in time. People are alive. People have cheated. People have babies. People one night stand, pregnant. Like, it was just, to me, I got the point that
Yeah.
it was supposed to be kind of a sliding doors if then kind of like if I had done this, if I had
Okay.
not gone if I had not followed Ben, if I had stayed in California, what would my life have been?
Gotcha.
If I had ended up with Noel, would Noel still be alive from the fire? Like, what if I hadn't cheated or whatever?
Yeah.
I got the whole, like, she was going back to see all the changes that would have happened because of the decisions she made. But it just made it all seem very erratic.
Yeah.
And, like, it didn't flow to me or make sense, because then it was like she wanted to go back, and I don't know, it just I felt like it didn't give the show the ending that it needed. I think because it was trying to make like everyone freaking happy or something, because you definitely had Team Ben, Team Noel, like Team Felicity, and is in all shows you're never going to make everyone happy. So I just think it was also, aside from the fact that they decided to just make it a 4-season series and just follow her college career, I think the ratings were failing. So I think they were trying to just do something fun and different.
Yeah.
And I get it. I could see the point in it, but I just still did not like it. I don't think the ending was good, and I wish they would have done something different. I don't know what, but I didn't really get the whole time travel stuff. That's me. Okay. What about you? What's on your list?
So I'll have some. So there are going to be a couple that I will probably go on a rant about, but there are a couple that are just kind of gimmies that are kind of like on everyone's list. I have Freaks and Geeks and Pushing Daisies. I loved both of those shows. Those are two. Freaks and Geeks is one. I mean, you know this. Freaks and Geeks is one of like my favorite shows. I absolutely love it. Before it was cool to like Freaks and Geeks, I loved Freaks and Geeks. I would talk about it my freshman year of high school, and no one else watched it.
Your mom even watched it.
Yeah, my mom. I got my mom. That was when it went into syndication on ABC or Fox Family or whatever it was called. Yeah, Pushing Daisies was a really weird show, and I really loved it. First time I ever saw Kristen Chenoweth in anything.
Oh, okay.
Susie Kurtz, and she was Audrey in Little Shop of Horrors. I forgot her name. Ellen Green. Yeah, she was. If you look her up, she was in something. She's been in stuff. Yeah, that was a really great show. And then I have one that I kind of have to be a little pissed. I'm still pissed off about. Now, this show wasn't a short-lived show. The show went on for a few seasons. I hated the way they ended Dawson's Creek.
Oh my God.
And I have gone on this rant, I think 3 times in the last like few weeks, because we watched the Dawson's Creek reunion on YouTube when it was during Snowpocalypse. During the most recent snowstorm, we watched the Dawson's Creek reunion, and it just reminded me of how mad I was that they killed. First of all, they killed off my favorite character. They killed off Jen, which I was so mad about. She was the best character on the show. She was the most interesting character on the show. Michelle Williams also is like one of my favorite actresses, so biased right there. But I was just I'm like, that is her ending. And then
I was so mad.
And then I was mad that it was like, my dying wish is that, Joey, you choose between Dawson and Pacey. And I'm like, was it Pacey? Yeah. I don't always think Paisley. That's a thing. Yeah, I was just mad because once again, I just get annoyed with the whole, why did Joey have to be with one of them? Like, why couldn't...
That's what I said just now about Felicity.
Why did Joey have to end up with one of them? Why couldn't she have just been like, Dawson, you go be a filmmaker, and Pacey, you go do whatever you're going to do, and I'm going to go live my... I feel like that would have been so much more satisfying, but... And it's interesting going back and watching the reunion, because Kevin Williamson came back for the finale because he was the one that created the show. Yeah. Kevin Williamson went back for the finale, and he was being pressured for Dawson and Joey to end up together. And which, honestly, I would have probably liked better than Pacey. I don't know why. I love Joshua Jackson, but like, I just did the whole Joey Pacey thing. I just never got it. I never got their thing. Maybe I am Team Dawson. Maybe because he's the movie nerd and he was the one that I related to. But yeah, I was just really upset with that. But that is probably one of my favorite shows from like my teen years. I loved Dawson's Creek. I was obsessed with that show. So there was a show called Betas, and it was basically the plot to Silicon Valley, but it was like less than a year before Silicon Valley came out. And it was in there. It was a Amazon Prime original, and this was in 2013 when all of that was like brand new. That whole concept of like all of these streaming platforms having original content. I think it just fell victim to that because like it has really good ratings on IMDb, like each episode does. And it was the same premise, but it was a dating app, which I felt like was a lot more relevant in 2013.
Oh, okay.
Because when everyone would talk about what Pied Piper was in Silicon Valley, unless you were a tech person, you didn't really get it. It was just compressing files. It was just a file compressing app.
Yeah.
Or software. But like just a dating app was just so much easier to understand. And
Did we watch this?
I know I watched at least one episode because I'd already watched it by the time, long since. I mean, I've had Amazon Prime since like 2012. I think I watched it when it originally aired, or when it originally came out, but I feel like I showed you the first episode.
I think you did.
I feel like I showed you the first episode when we were like,
because when you were describing this, I was like, I think I watched this.
I think we were in like a hotel or something like that, and we were trying to think of stuff to watch, and I was like, oh, because I just gotten you into Silicon Valley, and I think that show was still going on.
Okay.
And I was like, here, because I mean, I didn't think it was funnier than Silicon Valley, but like I thought it was as good or just as good as Silicon Valley. It had a really great cast.
Yeah.
And it had a lot of really funny people in it. And then just a couple of random ones that I'll just kind of like go through. High Fidelity with Zoe Kravitz. It was based on the book and based on the movie with John Cusack. And Lisa Bonet's daughter, who Lisa Bonet was in the original High Fidelity. So it was really cool. Jake Lacey was the love interest. It was a really funny, it was a modern, it was like my generation version of High Fidelity where all of the references were stuff that like I got. And things that like I related to, like being in that era of dating and being single. I mean, one that I can't believe, Scream Queens. I wish that would have gotten more seasons. Scream the TV series, and then I have The Wilds, which I thought was a really good show. Season 2 was really good. I just wish they would have kind of continued it, but season 1 was incredible.
Yeah, that one was good, and then I just think it fell off. Like,
yeah.
I just don't think that we ever heard anything else about it.
It was just one of those things where they did season 2, we watched it, and it was really good.
Was that a pandemic? Like
maybe, yeah, maybe. And then one that I don't even know if you remember is Paper Girls, which was the 4 paper girls that went into the future, I think. And it was set in like the 90s or something like that. It was another Prime show that only lasted one season. Okay. But that was a really good show. The way it ended, I kind of wish there was more to it. And then the last one, let me make sure I'm not skipping one. Yeah, and then the last one I have, it went on. It was one of those shows that suffered after the writer's strike in like the mid-2000s. It was Heroes, which is kind of like parallel to Lost. It was around the same time.
Yeah, I watched the first season of that, and then I fell off of it.
Yeah, season 2 was during the writer's strike. It was cut short, and then season 3 was really good, and then season 4 was like, this isn't that great. But then they had already started filming season 5, and they had like preview clips of season 5, and then it just got canceled.
Oh, okay.
So it was just one of those shows that like I kind of wish I could have seen more, because it became more of like people with powers in the White House and being involved in like the political world. That would have been really interesting to see. Yeah, so those are mine. I could probably think of so many more, but that's just more. That was just off the top of my head. Now I wanted to go with more current stuff. Because then you have shows like Square Pegs and other, teen shows that only lasted a season that were great. So at the end of the episode, we're about to get in the plot summary. Luckily, it's not that long because it was 42 minutes, and also like it's not that not a lot happens. It's just it just went by really fast, and so it was just like you didn't really need a lot of descriptions for it.
Yeah.
But it was really good. I really liked it. So at the end, when we are finished with the plot summary, we are going to talk about what we got going on in March.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and get to that pilot plot summary, because we're about to hit our hour mark.
All right, let's do it.
Firefly pilot plot summary. Okay, so we get a little backstory of like what's going on, because it's set 500 years in the future. So we get a little bit of backstory narrated by Daryl Book. He's the shepherd. This is his backstory. This is him like narrating. After the Earth was used up, we found a new solar system, and hundreds of new Earths were terraformed and colonized. The central planets formed the alliance and decided all the planets had to join under their rule. There was some disagreement on that point. After the war, many of the independents who had fought and lost drifted to the edges of the system, far from alliance control. Out here, people struggle to get by with the most basic technologies. A ship would bring you work, a gun would help you keep it, and a captain's goal was simple: find a crew, find a job, keep flying. All right, so now we're in the present day of the future. Captain Malcolm Mal Reynolds, Zoe, and Jane Cobb, which is, it's so funny that's Adam Baldwin. Like, that's so, I kept like reminding myself, I'm like, that's from My Bodyguard. I'm like, that's my guy. They're in a bar, and when drunk patrons celebrate the 6th anniversary of the Alliance's victory on Unification Day with a toast, Mal, a former brown coat soldier, picks a fight. Zoe immediately backs him up, and Jane hesitates before reluctantly joining. Outnumbered, Mal radios his pilot, Wash, for help. Serenity rescues them despite the ship not having any weapons. In the ship's infirmary, Dr. Simon Tam tends to his mentally disturbed teenage sister River. Another passenger, Shepard, whose book, Shepard's just another word for a preacher.
Right.
Shepard book tells Mal that Simon is brave to sacrifice his life of luxury to go on the run and protect his sister. On a Skyplex, which is an orbiting space city, which sounds really cool. Be nice to go to one of those if they existed.
Exactly.
Mal, Joe, and Jane meet crime lord Adelaide Niska and his hulking lieutenant Crow to arrange a job. Niska sadistically shows them the body of the last person who failed him. I was really surprised. I was like, this was on Fox. It was just like, it was a little, I mean, I loved it, but it was just like a little intense, especially for the time. I don't know. The job is to steal 2 crates from a moving train, which Mal shows no interest in knowing the contents of. During the heist, Mal and Zoe sneak past an entire squad of Alliance troops who are coincidentally on the train. They break into the locked train car and find the crates, while Serenity flies over the speeding train and lowers Jane on a winch to collect the cargo. Meanwhile, a curious trooper sets off a booby trap that Zoe had set. Setting booty traps.
Booty traps.
Jane is wounded, and Mal knocks out the soldier before he can see what's happening. Jane and the crates are hoisted onto the ship, while Mal and Zoe covertly re-enter the passenger car and pretend to be regular passengers. Wash parks Serenity in a nearby canyon. Jane wants to get to the rendezvous point and finish the job, but Wash refuses to leave without Mal and Zoe. Mal and Zoe. When Jane tries to take the ship by force, Simon sedates him. Meanwhile, Mal learns that the stolen cargo is desperately needed medicine. The nearby mining town is afflicted with a
degenerative disease
caused by mining activities. The local sheriff is suspicious of Mal's cover story that he and Zoe are a married couple looking for work. Inara appears and uses her considerable status as a companion, falsely claiming that Mal is her runaway indentured man who persuaded Zoe to leave her husband. The impressed sheriff lets her take the runaways back into her own custody. Mal decides they will deliver the medicine to the townspeople and return Niska's money. Niska's henchman finds them first, and a fight ensues. The Serenity crew wins and secures the villains. Mal and Zoe drive the cargo to the town, intending to drop off the crates discreetly. They are surprised by the sheriff and his deputies, who realize what they have done. They are grateful for the return of the medicine and allow them to go free. Mal tries to negotiate with Crow, but he says Niska will refuse and promises to hunt down and kill them. Mal casually kills Crow, and the next henchman agrees. And the next henchman agrees to cooperate. Elsewhere, on an Alliance cruiser, 2 mysterious men in suits wearing blue gloves inquire about a girl and show the captain a photo of River Tam. End of episode. Yeah, it was very quick. It was very simple. There wasn't much to it, but not in a bad way.
The only thing I can say about the pilot is, I'll be honest, like, there was nothing that made me want to keep watching it.
Right.
Again, I'm at this age not the target audience of when this actually came out. And even I don't think in 2000, if it had come across my channel and my remote control at the time, do I think I would have wanted to still watch it? I feel like it probably got a mega cult following because there wasn't really a lot like this on.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to think of anything sci-fi-ish. I remember
there was a lot of sci-fi in the 90s and 2000s. It just wasn't like this.
Right,
There was there was Battlestar Galactica. There was all this different Star Trek shows from the 90s and 2000s.
I remember Dark Angel. Yeah. That was Jessica Alba's first show that was set in Seattle that I actually loved that show, probably because it was set in Seattle. So I was always like I liked that, but I don't know if that would be considered sci-fi. It kind of was.
I don't know if I ever watched
it was good. But yeah, that was one that was cut short. But yeah, I don't know if I would have continued watching it. I don't know. I mean, when we watched it, I was really going the whole time like, this has a cult following. Maybe we need to watch the other episodes to see what happens. Yeah. But I don't know. I didn't feel like compelled to keep watching more like other episodes that we've watched throughout our podding. This one did not leave me feeling like I wanted to watch more.
I think the main reason why I wanted to keep watching was kind of like what you said, because it's a cult classic and because people love it so much. I'm like, okay, maybe it is just like the whole story in general, because there have been plenty of shows that I've started watching that I wasn't immediately interested in, and then I kept watching it and I'm like, oh, I get it. Like, I get it. This show's awesome. Like, I think I was like that with, we just said it, I was like that with the OA. I remember watching like the first 2 episodes and I'm just like, can we just get this thing going? I'm like, it's just moving so slow. But then once it got going, I was like, oh, the show is incredible. So yeah, I think maybe we just need to give the show a real chance. I mean, like, I wanted to keep watching just mainly because I love this cast so much. Alan Tudyk is the best. I love that guy. He's so funny. Nathan Fillion is so great. Gina Torres is awesome. Jewel Staite, who we talked about in Higher Ground, and I've talked about her being on other shows that only lasted 1 season, which is just kind of crazy. But she is currently on a show that's been going on for like 5 or 6 seasons, so yeah, she made it.
She's fine.
Yeah. So that's that. We are at the end of this episode, and before we wrap things up, it is our final episode of the month, so that means that we are going to be talking about what you can expect from us in March. You came up with... So it's not that we struggled to come up with a theme, because you're really good at coming up with theme ideas, but it was like we kept having to like kind of pivot this one, because we were like, okay, first you came with, okay, so March is kind of the beginning of spring break, when you start going on vacations. So you were like, okay, well, let's try to think of shows that are set in exotic locations. And that was like kind of limited to what we could find and what was available to us. And then you just came out of the blue and you were like, what if we do TV, not necessarily vacation themed or exotic themed, but what if we do shows that it has nothing to do with March, it just has to do with a great idea. And it was like, let's do shows that have U.S. cities in the title.
Yes.
Or I think one of ours is kind of like a nickname, or it's a neighborhood. Talk about Treme.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Is that the name of a city, or is that?
No, that's a neighborhood.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, like it's the the name of locations, but like specifically city names. And I mean, like you said in the last episode that we did, when you come up with the themes and I come up and I find the TV shows, we both kind of have like a really good like rapport with that. Like, you're so good at coming up with themes. Like I said, like we said before, I think we have ideas until like July.
Yeah.
Theme ideas till July. So you can expect, so if you know of any TV shows that have U.S. cities in the title, you can probably start guessing maybe what they are. One of them is, I mean, we've talked about Donald Glover a lot, if that's a hint, and there is one specific one that it was the first one that you said, and that's going to be the one that you're going to hear on Tuesday, and that's going to be Ozark. And
you talked about the lead of one of the ones in this episode of a show that you said you could have done, SNL.
Yes. Yep.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yep.
So we've got a lot of good ones, and a lot of quite a few of that I have not seen.
Yeah.
I've not watched about 4 of them.
I could say there are 5 of these.
4.
Yeah, there are 5 of these that I've never seen.
There are 4 that I have not seen an episode of, and then 1 that I fell off of.
Yeah.
A couple 3 that I've watched all of them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
There's literally only 2 shows on here that I watched all of. So this is gonna be a fun month for me because there's a lot of new stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what you could expect from us, and we're actually gonna start watching some of them shows tonight once we're done recording and we're in bed watching shows. So yeah, you think that about wraps this one up?
Yeah.
All right, that wraps up this episode. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on whichever platform you're listening to this podcast on. That way you'll be notified every time we publish a new episode. You can also follow us on Instagram at We Judge Pilot Pod. We're also on Facebook. You can leave us a message, suggest a show for us to watch, or leave some emojis in the comments. What you got?
I don't have too many. For Firefly, I have fire and then the fly or the mosquito. Any of the space emojis, like the rocket ship or like the galaxy, the stars, the moon, the sun, any of those. The hospital for the infirmary, the train, because they're like kind of moving on that train, the cargo box, any of like the military to represent the troops, the cop, the medicine, and those were about the only ones. I mean, it was kind of like not a whole lot to go with. All right. Well, we are going to head out, but we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening.